Hurricane Ida has left southeastern Louisiana in utter ruin. I'm Mike Naso with the latest on the tropics on this Monday night at 11 p.m. It's definitely the quiet after the devastating storm. That was the scene on visible satellite imagery as a Category 4 hurricane named Ida made a historic landfall in southeastern Louisiana right there at Port Fourchon with winds of 150 miles per hour. We had sustained winds clocked in Category 4 intensity in many places. We had wind gusts to Category 5 intensity. We had high storm surge, crashing waves, and catastrophic flooding all around a very devastating storm coming to the west of New Orleans 16 years to the day that Hurricane Katrina came in as a Category 3 to the east of New Orleans. Just a very nasty hurricane. Power's still out, damage all over the place, devastation, areas of Grand Isle submerged. I'm sure the water will recede, but we had a hurricane just as strong in 1856 called the Last Island Hurricane that washed away permanently some of those barrier islands. So we'll wait and see what happens with those waters. This is what Ida looks like now on satellite imagery. You can see that it's definitely weakened. It's no longer a tropical system, no longer advisories being issued from the Hurricane Center, but a lot of rich tropical moisture flowing here into areas of northern Alabama, across Tennessee, headed on up towards the Appalachians. You guys are going to get drenched. You can see the radar right now. A lot of heavy rain. Still this feed of moisture from the Gulf back into the Panhandle, but most of it is in northern Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee. We even have some rainfall going into the state of Kentucky. So again, a lot of heavy rain now becomes the focus, and the flood threat continues with Ida. You can see this will spread all the way through, and as much as 6 to 10 inches in southern Pennsylvania and areas here in the Smoky Mountain areas of West Virginia. Northern Virginia and Maryland, you guys are going to get in on it too, potentially 4 to 6 inches of rainfall, and this is over the next few days, and that will exacerbate the flood risk. You can see a moderate flood threat obviously down here on the right side of what's left of Ida, and then that will go from Chattanooga, Knoxville, Nashville, all the way through Huntington, all the way over to areas near Philadelphia. So again, by Thursday and Friday, we should eventually get most of the moisture here towards the northeast and get rid of whatever's left of Ida. But what a hurricane. What a monster hurricane. A devastating storm as a Category 4. And there are some people saying, hey, it wasn't that bad. New Orleans is still standing. Okay. But one of these days we're going to have this Category 4 be a Category 5 and the eye's going to be over downtown. I mean, you're never going to have a perfect strike, but you're going to have so many people impacted around it. I think for the people down here, this was definitely the worst one on record, at least in living memory, that they went through. And for New Orleans, you guys aren't out of the woods yet. You guys have a lot of problems there. But again, slowing down as it made landfall, just all around bad news. And I'm going to be honest, this is one of the more beautiful looking hurricanes I've ever seen make landfall in the United States. And it was in the top 10 all-time of wind speed. Remember, a Category 5 is 156 and above. This was 150. Charlie in 2004 was 150. We had Hurricane Laura last year was 150. Hurricane Michael in 2018 was 160. But other than that, you got to go back to Andrew in 92. So you're talking Andrew, Charlie, Michael, Laura, Ida. 5 hurricanes in 30 years. That doesn't happen every year. That's a big event. So, quite a devastating storm. Now let's go to a nice, weak storm out in the middle of nowhere. This is Tropical Storm Kate. Kate is at 22.7 north, 50.9 west. Winds of 40, moving north at 6 miles per hour. Expected to remain a depression or a tropical storm the next few days. Well to the east of Bermuda. Well out at sea. Not a problem at all. You can see the forecast models don't even bring it close to any land. It should remain out there and just waste a name. By the way, I will tell you, we did have Tropical Storm Julian that briefly became a storm and moved out to sea, but it was during the time that Ida was bearing down on New Orleans as a Category 4 hurricane. So I did not want to take the eye off Ida and focus on an insignificant name waster, as we call them. So Julian, that name will be seen again when we reuse this name list 6 years from now on the rotating list of hurricane names. Here's Kate on the satellite imagery, and if you can see this swirl right here, this is a naked swirl with extreme wind shear. Look at those winds blowing right towards it. That is heavy, heavy amounts of wind shear. In fact, you could see we have another little tut and a tropical upper tropospheric trough developing here, and that's 30 knots of wind shear, and that is impacting Kate, which is right there where I circled, and that is why it is so weak, and it will not become a hurricane, it doesn't look like. In contrast, we have lower wind shear down here, and that's off the coast of Africa, and we could see development. We have this monster wave which has moved off the coast. It's an invest area right here, and there's actually more waves behind it. Remember, we're getting into the heart and peak of hurricane season. Technically, the peak is about September 10th, and so we're just entering the month of September. We still got 10 days to go. Think about where we've been in the last 10 days. I mean, we had Fred. Remember Fred? Everybody forgot about Fred already. Then we had Hurricane Grace hit Mexico as a Category 3, and then we had Henri flood Brooklyn, New York, and then New Orleans gets hit by a Category 4 hurricane. That's how fast it changes. I told you guys, the late great Dr. Grace said August 20th, boom, that switch comes on. And boy, was he right. So, this could very well develop. And if it does, it will get a new name. The next name on the list, we've gone through Ida. By the way, when they rotate this name list every 6 years, this was the first list used back in '79. We had Hurricane David, Hurricane Frederick, and those names were replaced over the years. I guarantee you there's not going to be another Ida, so we're going to have a replacement name for Ida on the 2027 name list. We've had Julian, we've had Kate. Larry is the next name. So this system off Africa should become Larry, and it could do it rather rapidly. Here's the computer models. The good news is they generally keep this system out at sea, but if you're in Bermuda down the line, watch it. There's a good chance that this will be one that turns away, but it could still get close to Bermuda if it does so. Here's the satellite imagery, and you can clearly see we have some sort of rotation in here. It's not a tropical depression yet, but it could be pretty close. Here's the CMC model. This is the Canadian, and you can see what it does. It brings what's left of Ida up, and then watch. There comes Larry, Hurricane Larry, a monster. And then we have another system develop in the western Gulf of Mexico. They don't need it in the Gulf anymore, but it develops into a tropical storm or a low-end hurricane and comes into northern Mexico in areas ravaged by Grace. And then you can see Larry moves on up to the east of Bermuda. Then we have this model, the European model, and you can see that it takes Larry as a strong hurricane right up towards Bermuda around September 9th or so. That's 240 hours. And I call it Larry because that's the next name, but who knows. And then probably based on that moves it on out, but it gets pretty darn close to Bermuda. So the bottom line is we're going to keep watching the tropics and see what's out there. You guys in Louisiana are going to be cleaning up for quite some time, and I feel for you guys. You really took it right there in southeast Louisiana really hard from an extremely powerful Category 4. Like I said before, I've been tracking hurricanes now over 20 years. I started when I was young, and I could tell you that I've only been around tracking about 4 storms of this type of intensity at landfall. So Ida is a historic hurricane. I'm Mike Naso with the latest on the tropics. Keep an eye on our tropical waves leaving Africa over the next week or two. I'll talk to you guys next time.